Welcome to the No Flop Zone. You're taking time out with me, Boti Nagy, and the electrifying Joey Wright, and we've got some things to talk about this week. But before we do, we need more subscribers, so just hit the subscribe button and even leave us a comment as to why you're not subscribing, whatever. Leave us a comment. Today's show, we've got quite a lot to do with viewers' comments. We're going to have a look at the NBA All-Star Game and our thoughts on that, and quite a lot of other things, including Kyrie, Irving. We've got a lot to unpack, but let's start.
Let's start with congratulations to you on becoming WNBL Life Member. Can we congratulate?
Oh, thank you very much.
Right.
I appreciate it.
I want some comments and congratulations as well.
It was a very humbling,
How'd you feel?
Lovely surprise. It was a lovely
Surprise.
Yeah, because I mean, I haven't been a journalist for 8 years, officially working for a newspaper, so that came out of the blue a little bit. And it was nice to be recognised for 40 odd years of
It was nice.
churning it out.
It's nice because it's great. You've done a great job.
Thank you. And one day I know you're going to read something that I wrote. Something.
Nah.
I've given you books. and
I've given them away.
We gifters. Okay, so let's start with the NBL finals. We correctly called that the Sixers would beat Sydney, and then that the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix would beat the 36ers. Let's first go to the Sydney game, because looking at that in an unbiased, just analytical view, I thought if Cam Oliver had played the season the way he played that game, they never would have been in that game.
Yeah. But he was playing that game, and I watched it a little bit earlier in the season. He played that game because he had a personal, him and Trez was going at each other. You know, two NBA forwards, going at each other, both athletic, both supposed to be aggressive. Trez was more what he was supposed to be this year than Cam Oliver even came close to. But he did play really well in that game. He played hard. He was focused. He was locked in. But that was a personal battle.
Right.
I mean, even at the end, they came over and, they had their little comments and, of mutual respect.
Yes.
Because they did go at each other fairly hard. But he should have been playing that way all year. You just showed us what you did all year. Nothing.
So, Sydney, where do they go from here?
I think they got to clean out. They got some things to do there. I mean, they definitely got to move him out. I think Adams has got to go. Leafa, I don't know if he fed in well this year. So it's some guys that I think they're going to move around and do some things, and I think they need to.
And there's still a question mark over Xavier Cooks right now as well.
Yeah, big question mark over Xavier. I haven't heard any more news recently, but that's going to be a big one too. So it's going to be a lot of cleaning of house.
What did you think of Brian Goorjian's performance coming back into the league as head coach? Did he reach? Was he the guy you thought he was, or was he a bit below?
He was below, definitely. He was definitely below where I thought he would be, and I don't know if that was due to personnel injury or due to the personalities. But I've never seen Brian Goorjian not have control of his team every single game for every single second. I've never seen it before, and this time I've seen entire games where he didn't have control of it.
Right, so you didn't watch the Boomers. Okay.
No, I think he had influence and control over the Boomers, and I think they played Brian Goorjian's style of basketball as well. I don't think the Sydney Kings played Brian Goorjian's style of basketball. I mean, even some little when he subbed Adams out with 2 fouls with a couple seconds to go in the half, and Adams had something to say. That's the most ridiculous shit ever. Like, why? Like that's telling me more about Adams and your intuition and your basketball knowledge. It's not that good.
Yeah. Okay, so we move on. The Sixers are celebrating. They take on Southeast Melbourne, one of the teams that we liked for most of the year, even without Derek Walton playing. And wow, they're playing some unbelievable basketball in that first half. Kept them to 15 points first quarter, 11 points in the second quarter, 26 for a half. They go in 19 up off that Kendrick Davis half-court shot, which you've been involved with those. People go into the change room feeling like they're a million miles high and, we've got this. Go, we can make anything.
It means nothing.
No. And then the first basket of the second half is theirs. They're 21 up. And from that point forward, it's just rubbish. And Mike Wells didn't do a thing. There was no change in defense. There was no change in their structure. All he did was sub. And then what he also does, start bitching about the refs late, which to me is a sign of an inexperienced head coach. If you're going to blame the refs, you're clutching at straws.
I think I've been a little disappointed all year with a lot of coaches and their inability to change things up and try something. Like if you're down 20 with 6 minutes to go, try something.
Yeah.
I don't know what, and I can't even, say what you should be doing because I'm not at your practices, but do something. Don't just do the same pick and roll defense and same half court defense, the same offensive sets with the same players, bar 2 or 3. You got to do something, and you're right. It wasn't a lot being done at the end of that game to change things up or change flow up or chemistry. Once Southeast got on that run and they started feeling it because of who?
Ben
Air.
Fantastic performance.
Yeah. But see, let me digress for a minute. Ben Air, who didn't play the first 5 games of the year that they all lost, okay, and didn't play much in the next 10 games, okay?
Third man behind Walton, Owen Foxwell, third man.
Yeah. Whether he should have been third man is debatable,
Yeah.
but just would not get in court time, could not get in court time. They don't win that game without Ben Air. They're not there without Ben Air. I give credit to Ben Air to sit there all year and then come out and have some big games for Southeast, just sitting there waiting.
Doesn't that say so much about him? That he never lost, he never started thinking, oh, me, I'm not getting. Anytime he got his opportunity, he went out there and busted his ass every time until those minutes improved.
And I give Josh King credit for that, for looking at him and say, it must be something there, because when they're up 20 and it's 3 minutes to go, he doesn't play Air. He doesn't play him. So it seems like someone said, hey, don't play this kid unless you have to. And when they're down and they need something and Josh King's looking for a mix-up, he'll throw him in there.
Yeah.
And it's worked. So great coaching, great player.
But, I mean, surely at halftime, if you go in 19 up at halftime, you have to know they're coming. This is a final. This is a KO game. So they're coming in the second half. Surely you've got to prepare your guys for, all right, here it comes. We've got to be able to weather this, take the air out of the ball, run some, I don't know.
I've been highly critical of KD.
Flag.
I've been highly critical of KD all year, but I think the criticism in this last game was a bit unfair. He's taken over games and won games for Adelaide all year. He took over a game, he just didn't win it for him. You can't then turn around and say, oh, he hogged the ball. He's been hogging the ball all year. He's only passed the ball when he's had to. Other than that, he shot the ball. And he's done that all year. And the second half was no different. DJ not getting the ball is more of all of them not having the ball long enough. They go down, throw up a stupid shot, and then go back down and play defense for a period of time. Throw up a stupid shot, go down and play defense. It's hard to get into a rhythm to find a person if that's happening. But on the defensive end, they all shut it down.
So you got Novasiljevic. Isaac Humphries was having, well, I don't know if he was having that poor a game, but he didn't get in much, so we didn't get to see it. Although I've got to say, I've been a big fan of Isaac's when he's going. I think he can do some amazing things when he's going. But when he's going. The rest of the time, that sort of hangdog, oh, I've messed up sort of thing, we've been seeing that for 5, 6, 7 years. For Christ's sake, grow out of it.
Yeah,
move on.
Great players can shoot bad, not score, and still affect the game. That's real. And on great teams, you see that. Trey Kell could be having an off game. He still have influence on the actual game itself. Bryce could have an off game. He still have influence on the game itself. So just because you're not scoring don't mean you can check out.
I mean, there's no better example of that than Damian Martin, who never had a good offensive game.
Never.
Whole career.
But always affected the game.
Even Kevin Durant knows who he is.
Yeah.
All right, so we're now taking a break, which we'll discuss later when we talk about the Boomers in the finals. Let's talk about we have talked about Jason Cadee's retirement, but I thought the way he went out in that game, he went down fighting.
He went down fighting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he went down fighting. Yeah, he was directing traffic and doing this, and we'd like to see more of that of Jace all year, but he definitely got out there and played a good game, and it's be a good game to remember. I thought it was really fitting that Sobey, who's one of his best mates, those two were able to embrace at the end of that game. When you're going through that and it's your last one and you know it. I knew my last one when I was coaching. I knew it was the last one, and you kind of just looking around for something to hold on to or somebody to hold on to just get through that moment, because it is a bit daunting.
It's highly emotional, but they played together at Brisbane too, didn't they? It wasn't just Adelaide.
Oh yeah,
in Brisbane.
They're mates, like they're good friends.
And so the other one's Clint Steindl, who's just put together a terrific career, and his 4 years as captain of the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. He's been a great leader for them. 3 championships he's won, 1 with the Jackies, 2 with Perth Wildcats. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good career.
He has a great career. I got a chance to be around him and see him when he was a young kid in Queensland. Never thought he'd be this good, to be honest with you. Never thought he shot up and grew pretty quick at one point, but he has had a stellar career, a lot to be proud of, and he'll go on to do great things. He's a very intelligent human being, so he'll do great things.
One of his early games for Aaron Fern at Cairns Taipans, he had the ball on the wing, first quarter of this game, ball on the wing, fakes, drives, throws down this dunk in the middle of traffic. I'm like, who's this kid?
Way more athletic than people will guess him for, because he's such a great shooter. And it's, great shooter, white guys, easy to say, just a shooter. He got some bounce. He showed it this year.
We're at Cairns. What's going to happen there? Adam Ford's stepped away, obviously by his own accord. There doesn't seem to be any friction or issue there. It doesn't really seem to be.
We don't have many Australian coaches, and we just lost 2 of them.
Yeah.
But at least, Sam McKinnon name should be floating around somewhere at this point in time. Maybe back at Brisbane, maybe at Cairns. I'm hearing Kerry Williams maybe possibly, stepping up there at Cairns.
What about Joel Kalu?
Joel Kalu would be excellent. He's ready.
What about Brisbane? Would he be a good fit?
He'd be a great fit for Brisbane. I think him and his Queenslander background, being there in Brisbane would be perfect for him. Be a good fit. Now,
you were not shocked when you heard the news Justin Schueller had been released.
I was.
As they take their next step forward. I don't know what.
No, it was great at AI post.
Anyway,
like AI rated.
You were surprised by that.
I was. I don't think Schueller. I think their teams were competitive in all of maybe 4 or 5 games a year, which is too many. You got to be competitive in every game. I thought they probably dropped the ball in about 4 games this year that I can remember. But the injuries. I mean, you can't discount the injuries. You can't discount. They had a lot of injuries, and that definitely affected them. Definitely.
Yeah, but we talked about it a few weeks ago when he's got the guy Josh Adams sitting on the bench and Isaac White sitting on the bench, and he's starting at DP. And you sat in that chair and said, well, yeah, he's trying to show, look what I've got. Whereas he could have started a better 5. There were things he did to try and make himself not look as culpable, because every team had injuries. Every team that missed the playoffs was busted up by injuries, every single one of them. So and he got rid of Nathan Sobey, and in quite a controversial manner, he kind of implicated Sobey as the reason that they weren't going forward. So I think he took a lot on himself, and he failed.
Yeah, he took a lot on himself and failed, and he probably wouldn't be feeling good about the position at the end of the year. But I don't think as far as coaching, I don't think he was out there just doing stupid things. I think it was a lot of injury that kind of affected him, and 1 or 2 stupid things. You do get to do 1 or 2 stupid things a year. It's going to happen. I don't care what kind of coach you are.
Okay. Well, he claps stupid. I can't take that. Stop clapping.
Look, it'd be easy for me to be hypercritical of him. He was very critical of me as a coach when he was assistant coach in Melbourne. It was routinely information coming out where he, so he was hypercritical. It'd be easy for me to be critical of him, but I don't think he's done a bad job.
How surprised would you be to see Adelaide pick him up as an assistant, being an Adelaide boy? Would that surprise you? Because it wouldn't surprise me.
It is nothing Adelaide can do that would surprise me. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing.
All right.
They got me. It's been too many mouth open moments.
We've had an abundance of viewer topics come floating in, so we're gonna cover a lot of them. One of them, which we might get to later, was from somebody called Tomlinson, who says he just doesn't like your analyses. So we'll address that at some point in the future. Here we go. This one's from Fanfare. He says, Joel Kalu to coach the Cairns Taipans next season. What do you think?
I think it'd be excellent. I think Joel, even in northern Queensland, would be more appropriate than Central Queensland, just because he has such an influence in that area. Yeah. He's really known in the basketball community there. Yes. Like we know him well. Yeah,
he runs that Australian Indigenous team. He's definitely a character. Monty says, Joey, you've reviewed the current crop of NBL coaches, and very generously too, I might add. But what about past coaches? Who do you feel are some of the excellent or underrated past NBL coaches across the time you've been here?
Obviously, underrated or just great coaches?
Yeah, excellent or underrated.
Well, both. Sean Dennis is one of them. I think was
love Sean.
Yeah, I think a brilliant coach. Paul Hanari, brilliant coach. Those 2 stand out right away of guys that not the general basketball population would know, but are actually Kevin Braswell as well when he was at New Zealand.
Yep.
Another excellent coach. But I think those guys are probably getting overshadowed a little bit. But, over the career, obviously Brian Goorjian and Rob Beveridge and Gordy McLeod, Chaco. I mean, it's been some excellent coaches, Trevor Gleason, Aaron Fern. I think these guys are excellent, excellent coaches. Going up against them, Guy Malloy. I know Guy doesn't get a lot of stick on the men's side, but some of the sets and that stuff, and a lot of my out of bounds plays I stole from Guy.
Yeah.
A lot of my out of bounds plays I stole from Guy. So it's been some great coaches. I've learned more in Australian basketball than before I got to Australian basketball and coaching.
Okay, that's good. Glenn Thomas says to us, how do you go about giving local players good opportunity in the NBL? We have a history of losing young talent to other teams where they flourish, and we've got a few that have just gone. You've got Olbrich and White and McDaniel.
Why do we need local? Why don't we need basketball players? Why does this have to be a local?
This is where your American stuff comes out.
Okay,
we're Australian. We love our people.
Okay, so
and South Australia in particular. When we first had the 36ers, they were all South Australians except for the imports.
Okay.
And that place was packed. Had the next.
When you go to Coles, do you check and make sure it's local people working at Coles?
Yes,
When
I
you go to Mitsubishi, do you check and make sure it's local people? No, you don't.
Go down the line and go, you're an AI, get the hell out.
No, you don't. We don't check for local people in any other industry. Why does it have to be in sport?
But this is an American thing. So I remember Mike Dunlap having this comment when he was coaching the 36ers, and he was bringing in Martin Catalini from Perth and John Riley from Toowoomba and whatever. And South Australians like Phil Smythe, etc., were heading out, although he was shipping them out. That wasn't well received. And Mike's position was, well, the Toronto Blue Jays have just won whatever they just won, and they didn't have a single player for Toronto on them, yet the city and the country loved them. But that's an American one. I mean, you guys.
Well, it's American, not as true. It could be from England. If it's true, it's true. Let me give you a story. I was in Coles in Fendon, my first year coaching here. A lady walks up to me, older lady, and she goes, "I looked at your roster. I don't see but one local player on the roster." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she goes, and I said, "Well, whose fault is that?" And she goes, "Well, it's your fault." I said, "No, I fielded the best talent I could find." I said, "I would say it's more your fault and anybody who lives in Adelaide." I said, "Because you guys didn't produce any 6'8", 6'9", 40-inch vertical guys that can run and jump and shoot that's here for me to get." So I got what I could get.
Yeah.
I said, if I just went about local players, I had my daughters with me at the time. I said, if I just went with local players, I said, I might get fired and then I can't feed these two. I said, so I'd rather have national players because I play in a national league and I can win games and I can feed these two. Or I could have local players and you could be happy. I said, I'd rather feed my kids.
No. See, but there's a balance. There's a balance in that.
It's not a balance if the talent's not
there.
If
the talent's not there, okay.
The talent's not. I have right no question. I would take 10 local players over if they were more talented than 10 non-local players. But I'm not going to take one because.
But the thing here in Adelaide goes back to Brad Newley. Never played here.
It goes back
to Joe Ingles. You can just start.
Those are just a few. Those are just a few. I think that if Joe Ingles and Brad Newley was here, and I was here, I think they would have played for me. I think they would have played for me because I know the ends that I would have went to have those two individuals involved in my program. I almost had Joe, and he wasn't when I was in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So, I'd forgone a local player in Brisbane to get Joe. I was very close to getting Joe on that team that we won the championship with.
Right now, though, there's a bunch of South Australians dotted around in other teams. So I guess that's what Glenn's getting at is because he said Ninnis was making local players a focus. He was bringing them into the group, and they're still there. But mostly a good result. He says now, someone like Nick Marshall, surely he's good enough to have a role on an NBL team. Has he not been utilised correctly, or is he just a victim of a lot of high-level talent above him on the roster?
No, I think Nick is a victim of being a nice guy. So he's a nice guy. He's the easiest one to put a foot down and stand on and squish because he's not going to say anything. He's just going to keep fighting. The people that support him in this community are happy that he's on the team, more than happy that he's playing. They're not going to cause any stick. They don't have any power because they're not really have a lot of basketball influence either. I just think he was the easiest one. It's nothing he did.
No, he was good.
Yeah, he was good.
When he got his opportunities, he was very good.
Yeah,
And
very good.
Rasmussen seemed to have leapfrogged over him, although those guys
Different
really,
position, but
yeah,
but still, I think it's some times that you could have used Nick for 5, 6, 7 minutes and say to Nick, you're not the reason why we are running a different lineup here. You're not the reason why. It's going to be some opportunity for you, and I'll make sure you get some minutes here and there when we can.
Ballaholic is back. He's a regular. I think it's a he. I'm curious why NBL teams can't cut Australian players mid-season for performance issues. Every season we see Americans get sent home without hesitation. I feel it can destroy a whole team season when they play. And the Australian and get decent money, but they don't perform. We've got to watch the team lose while they play out their contract. I know Joey had to deal with this in Adelaide. I saw an interview there where performance issues, and when he was asked about roster changes, Joey's response was, quote, well, I can't cut the Australian guys, unquote. You remember saying that?
Yeah. I don't remember saying it, but this, as I fist pumped, it's true. Like, why?
He says in the end, you end up having to cut Edris de Leon.
Yeah. So in Australia basketball, once Australian signs a contract, we have to stay and honor that contract, whereas Americans can get cut up to a certain point in time with no issues, no recourse. So I think they all should be like that. We should have one contract for everybody on the team. When we sit there and go, why do we treat the imports this way, or why do we treat the Australians this way? Our contracts say we have to treat them separately, but put them on the same team. So I definitely think it's an issue.
Do you think Brisbane needs to part ways with Harrison? I feel like he's Anthony Davis, great when he's on the floor, but when is he ever on the floor? The roster is built around him, and he simply doesn't work whenever he's injured.
I had probably a skewed view of that, and I said the same thing to somebody that works on their staff, and he corrected me and said, actually, last year that he only missed one game last year, and this year, the misses were, head-related and stuff you can't play with. So I was other beliefs too, and I thought it was a little Anthony Davis in him as well, but if he only missed one last year, I had to bag off on that.
Yeah, okay. The NBL referees, I think they should be paid more. A lot of these guys have jobs outside the NBL to support themselves. The NBA, they have big salaries so they can devote their time to officiating, training, and getting better. I feel the NBL will always suffer while they ref certain nights, but then have to go back to their regular jobs between games. They get $1,100 a game.
Yeah, they're
nice accommodations somewhere, flights. I don't think, you do 2 games, that's a couple of grand. That's
a couple grand a week extra.
Yeah.
A week extra? Nah, that's $96,000 a year. That's all right.
Okay, NBL experience. This is from Terry Aston. NBL experienced players making the step from a player to a head coach role instead of doing time as an assistant. My opinion, for example, would be someone like Jason Cadee, an experienced player who, as a point guard, would have learnt from the coaches he's played under. As good coaches liaise with their PGs, I couldn't imagine an experienced NBL point guard prepared to go through a few years as an assistant. And Phil Smythe is a pretty good example of that. Never coached, point guard for Australia, gets the Adelaide 36ers job, they win the championship.
Steve Breeny done a wonderful job.
Steve did the X's and O's, Phil did the man management, but
so
the point's still
the point is that he can go straight there, but he didn't go straight there by himself. That's the difference. He went there with Steve, who was the X and O's guys, and Phil managed the people.
So you're going to go with Jason? You're offering that if
I
Jason got a job?
I wouldn't offer Jason a head coaching job straight up. All right. I would offer him a while after he's become more of a man and had more life experience, because being a great coach is more about dealing with life experience than it's about X and O's.
Although Steve Winnie did the X's and O's, but that's not the important part. Therefore, Phil Smythe did the best job there.
I think Phil. I'll give Phil credit for managing that crew and how he managed players. Period, because players like playing for him. Yeah. They like being around them.
Yep. It was always funny to me that he and Brian Goorjian were so opposed. Goorjian as a player was a freewheeling, shooting the sort of guys that Phil liked as a coach. And the guy that Goorj liked as a coach was a disciplined point guard defender, which was Phil. They both would have played great for each other. Yeah, they had completely opposite views as players.
Insecurity coaches.
All right, we got one from Facebook, which is about the Perth and South East Melbourne playing game. It's fair to say it was a game of calls. Perth has 26 fouls, made 39 points from the free throw line. South East Melbourne has 28 fouls and 27 points from the free throw line. Does a coach need 2 strategies, one for the opponent, one for the officials?
Yes. What are you thinking? I think you'd be stupid to say you go in the game just thinking about the opponents. We go in the game thinking about how the officials call. You know, certain officials call a certain way if they're at home or if they're on the road. You know, certain officials or treat you this way or that way. Yes, that is part of it. Yes, I wish it wasn't.
Is RAC Arena the toughest venue because of that? Because of the way the crowd can influence the refs?
No, Perth's other venue, what was it?
Challenge Stadium.
Challenge Stadium was the toughest, and I'm telling you right now, play in Challenge Stadium at 9:30 at night on a non-televised game, where nobody see it but Perth fans, and you're down there at 9:30 on a. Oh, we used to get some treatment. This is before every game was televised. So now that the games are all televised, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I've been down there before when it's just like, okay, let's get out of here.
Perth fans, you know where to send your comments.
They're coming.
Let's go to the NBA and the All-Star game. Let's give it as much coverage as it deserves.
Move on.
Move on? Okay. So Kyrie Irving, you've seen that conversation about whether he's going to become a boomer.
He can't,
Well, he's played for the USA. He's won a gold medal. He's won an MVP at a World Cup. I don't know how he can suddenly change and become
I don't think he can. I don't think FIBA will allow him to transfer over to as an Australian at this point. I think once he's dead, if you're dual and you can play for one and you choose one, I was under the impression you had to stay there.
All right. We'll be back in just a second to sum up this week's big games. Well, the big games this week are obviously Australia versus Indonesia, which should be an absolute cracker in Terrel on tonight. And the other one on Sunday against Thailand again, Whew,
I think the best thing about these is we get some young guys able to suit up in the green and gold and play as a group against another country. That's about the best thing I can say about that.
You look like you need a saxophone, right? Anyway, just quickly though, what do you think about this interrupting the NBL finals as they do? Because these games are on Thursday and Sunday. Next week, the NBL finals are on Friday and Saturday. Like, why couldn't they have just slotted them in and put any kind of Australian team on? I mean, they're going to kill. Yeah. I think we're both predicting the Australia's going to kill Indonesia and Thailand.
I hate disrupting the NBL season. Sitting out that long for any team, I think it actually puts Melbourne and Illawarra at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Yep. Maybe an advantage in some way getting healthy, but game timing and all that stuff, man, they might give up that first game just because they got to get back going again. So I hate that it's been, we're going to break for this FIBA event. I mean, I know it's regulated FIBA, and I don't know how they get around it, but it seemed like with the team we're taking, why don't we just play Thailand and Indonesia with that team and then rock up and play our finals games?
Why we even play it? We're the Asia Cup holder. We're the highest placed finisher from Asia at the Olympics. Australia should just be automatic, in my view. But
you can't say that to Indonesia, who's probably come up with a hell of a game plan.